Alright, welcome back to Jorbs Scribbles on the Screen. Talks about every single thing in the Slay the Spire compendium. And we're talking about ThunderClap right now. I'm joined today by Electrobolt, who played a lot of Slay the Spire back when Ascension at 15 was in max difficulty and has played a little bit since Ascension 20. I'm just sort of updating his game knowledge and letting him ask some good questions. So,
Hey guys.
there you are. ThunderClap.
Yes.
ThunderClap, I mean, this is an attack common, like other attack commons. But ThunderClap, I think, is quite interesting in that it is pulled in so many different directions. There are just quite a lot of potential things that you can make somewhat strong written on a card that doesn't look like it has that much text. But it is a 1-cost attack, it deals 4 damage, and applies 1 vulnerable to all enemies. So it's 1 energy, it's AoE, it deals some damage, and it's applying vulnerable, which means that it can be used to clear artifact stacks even. That's a lot of different things. The general problem with ThunderClap is 4 is a very small number for damage. Even Anger deals 6 damage, and Anger costs 0 energy. So in order for ThunderClap to be good enough to take, you need to sort of be justifying it with other things you do. And ThunderClap is a card where, for most cards in the game, if you have a bunch of stuff going on that synergizes with them, they become really good. But ThunderClap is like, if you have a bunch of stuff that synergizes with it, it becomes okay. Like, at that point, it's good enough to take. And that happens sometimes, but you have to do a little bit of work for it, and you shouldn't be overvaluing it, I think. The most common way that I will take a ThunderClap is if I'm offered it in Act 1, and I already have some pretty strong high damage attack in my deck, and I'm unable to upgrade Bash for some reason. A very simple example might be that I picked up a Carnage. Carnage deals a lot of damage, and so when I go to a campfire, I'm going to want to upgrade Carnage to get it from 20 to 26. And also, Carnage costs 2, Bash costs 2, so if I didn't Boss Relic swap into 4 energy, I'm going to have to choose between one or the other if I draw them together. In a deck that doesn't have that many cards in it, I think you are usually going to draw them together something like 1 time in 3 or so, probably, at that stage in the game. And so the Bash upgrade just doesn't seem that good in these circumstances. And adding a ThunderClap to my deck gets me up to 3 vulnerable overall, which means that against Gremlin or Lagavulin I can expect vulnerable to be up for the entire fight, which is really nice. And if I just play a ThunderClap and then a Carnage Plus, the Carnage Plus is going to hit for 39 at that point, and so the ThunderClap was responsible for 17 damage that turn, which is better than most common attacks are going to do. So if you can find situations like that, ThunderClap can be a pretty sweet card. And later on in the run, you can do other things with it. If you get a bit of strength scaling going, this card can do a pretty good job of dealing with a good chunk of the health of Reptimancer's daggers in the Reptimancer fight. If you get copies of Disarm or Shockwave or something like that, and you need to be able to clear artifact charges off of difficult fights, ThunderClap can do that for you. So overall, I would say that I would love to have a ThunderClap as my common attack instead of a Twin Strike, but usually Twin Strike's a lot better than ThunderClap is, so I don't get to. And if I'm picking up a ThunderClap early, it's because I am in some sort of situation where other factors are making it good enough to take, but that situation isn't all that common, and you shouldn't be like going out of your way to try to pick ThunderClap an incredibly high percentage of the time. It's just, I think it's actually somewhat obvious when it's good in Act 1. It's like sort of binary. You don't get the Bash upgrade, you have a very high damage attack, all of a sudden ThunderClap starts being good. It's sort of my general feeling. What are your thoughts on that, Electrobolt?
Yeah, so... Shoot. I might have to edit this, my brain just totally froze. I'm sorry, man. I literally had my question and my brain just... It's late.
It's okay.
Can we just start and you can edit it?
I'm not editing it. There's no way. We're getting premium, authentic content here. Sometimes brains freeze. It's not.
that
It's
I
not a
wouldn't have
big
suggested
problem.
editing it. Okay, let me think. Well, so I mean, one thing I was thinking about is drop kick, right? How often are you picking that up in
Sure.
Act 1? Because that's one
I
of the
think drop
things.
kick's quite good.
Okay.
Drop kick, infinites kill the Act 2 boss actually somewhat commonly, I would say, in my Ironclad runs. And then sometimes, if the relics are right and other stuff falls into place, they also kill the Act 3 and 4 stuff. But, like, it's not that uncommon to want a drop kick because it's an okay card, which also has tremendous upside in Act 2 boss fights, even in a run where you're not going infinite for everything. So, yeah,
Right.
I do think drop kick's a common pickup.
Yeah, so if that's ending up in your deck, then ThunderClap is obviously more of a consideration when you have it. And also, I remember what I was going to say, which is that ThunderClap, for those of you who watched our last video, is kind of similar to Sword Boomerang in that it's kind of a weaker early game common attack, which by the late game is stronger than like a Twin Strike. But a lot of times by the time you get to the late game, you want to be putting cards that are even stronger than ThunderClap in your deck. Would you agree with that?
Significantly stronger than ThunderClap.
Right.
ThunderClap is not a very strong card.
It's in a really interesting place where so I don't know how true this is for Ironclad, but I found with Silent, because I do have a lot of A20 experience on Silent, that one of the actual like key points in every Silent run was getting the artifact charges off of the Act 4 elites. That's, to me, felt like one of the key points where if you couldn't do that, I would imagine it's a little bit less important as Ironclad.
Definitely quite a lot less important as Ironclad, I would say. Well, Silent decks, if they have like Wraith forms, might not care about it, but Ironclad decks, I think, very often solve that fight better by just killing the elites.
Okay, and you're not finding that you need to get vulnerable on to do that?
Sometimes it's nice.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily something I have to do. Also, vulnerable is one of those scaling things where it seems like it's going to get better as the game goes on. It's like weak. It seems like it's going to get better because like the numbers that you're attacking for go up, and so your vulnerable scaling is going to get better and better. It's going to be worth 5 damage in the early game and then 20 damage later on in the game, and that seems like it's better. But the problem is that the other stuff that you add to your deck that scales gets better way faster. So, like, playing vulnerable doesn't seem that impressive anymore when you compare it to getting Necronomicon and Bludgeon and playing Bludgeon twice. And all of a sudden, that one-shots an Act 4 elite if you have Preserved Insect, which is a common relic, so maybe it happens.
Which honestly ties into what I think is actually when I played Slay the Spire, what I found to be one of the most enjoyable concepts of the game is that the game is not just about sort of a linear progression of trying to make your deck exponentially better. It's more about hitting thresholds at the right time. So, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think ThunderClap can hit thresholds going into early Act 1 elite fights when you haven't gotten Bash upgraded yet. It can be a really nice card for there. And it can also, I think, hit some okay thresholds in Act 2 elite fights. I think the enemies have low enough health a lot of the time, and the fights are often solved by dealing high amounts of damage with single target attacks. Although with ThunderClap, actually, area effect attacks would be fine too. But like against Book of Stabbing, this can be a pretty decent card still in Act 2. Against the Act 2 Slavers, this can be a pretty decent card still. After that happens, your opportunities to be very excited about ThunderClap start to fall off
right.
fairly noticeably.
The one situation where you like always take ThunderClap I found is when you have Champion's Belt, because then it just becomes AoE weak.
Oh, sure,
which is broken.
That's a nice interaction for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the main ones. Yeah, pretty simple card, I think.
Simple, but also complicated, as many things in the game are.
Exactly, yes.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for joining me. I'm done recording for the night, so this is the last video with Electrobolt for right now.
Okay. I was kind of sorry. I thought you were done. You said you always finish with okay, cool.
Well, we're outroing for people now. This is a genuine, authentic outro.
This is the behind the scenes YouTube video.
Yeah, I've enjoyed having you on. I thought you asked good questions and framed things
Yeah.
in useful ways.
Cool. Yeah, I had fun too. It's just nice to chat with people. 2020 has been a bit of a solitary year for me. So
yeah,
I literally like.
I wonder. I would be interested in YouTube comments to hear whether people who get some like companionship and relaxation in the evenings out of my videos like this are getting even more of that when they hear me have a conversation with another human being instead of just talking by myself. Because I could see that being the case, maybe.
I have not experienced that personally. I've not found watching like other people interact on Twitch to have made me feel less in like a solitary situation.
Maybe it's even worse. You see other people who are having conversations with friends. Well,
it is a little
my
bit,
viewers
honestly.
should find friends to have conversations with. Reach out to someone.
Yeah.
All right. I am gonna wind it down now. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Have a good night, Jorbs.